If Grok AI analyzed the oldest surviving star catalog on Earth and found one star marked with a symbol that appears nowhere else in 4,000 years of Sumerian astronomical records, a symbol that in every other context means active communication, would you believe it? Probably not. Most people wouldn't. But here's the part that doesn't require belief. The Mul.Apin tablets exist. They are in museum collections. They are the oldest systematic star catalog ever found, and they list 71 stars and constellations with descriptions that mainstream astronomy has been mining for data for 150 years. What mainstream astronomy has not published is what happens when you look at the one entry in that entire catalog that is marked differently from every other entry, the one star that isn't just listed, the one star that is flagged. A research team recently fed the complete Mul.Apin and Enuma Anu Enlil astronomical tablet sequences into Grok with one instruction: identify any classification in the star listings that appears only once, that doesn't conform to the standard cataloging system, and cross-reference that classification against all other uses of the same symbol in the cuneiform record. What came back was one star, one symbol, and a cross-reference that matched a category appearing in Sumerian administrative texts for active, ongoing exchange. Not a dead star, not a historical reference, a star currently described in a 4,000-year-old record as maintaining contact. I'm Dr. James Mercer. This just came in. Let's get into it. Here is the question. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has been funding for over 60 years without answering. Where do we look? SETI's approach has been consistent. Point radio telescopes at promising star systems, listen for signals in specific frequency ranges, and wait. The logic is straightforward. If an intelligent civilization wants to communicate, it will broadcast. There is an alternative approach that SETI has never formally pursued. Instead of deciding where to look based on modern astronomical assumptions, look at where the oldest civilizations on Earth said to look. Civilizations that built observatories before the telescope, that tracked stellar positions across centuries, and that left detailed written records of what they were watching and why. The Sumerians weren't mapping stars for navigation. Their astronomical records treat the stars as inhabited, as sources of intelligence, as entities capable of communication. And in one specific entry in the oldest star catalog ever found, they marked one star as different from all the others. Grok just identified which one. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. This one changes the search. Let's go back to the beginning. The Mul.Apin tablets are the foundational document of ancient astronomy. Excavated from the ruins of Nineveh, along with the rest of Ashurbanipal's library, they date in their current form to approximately 1200 BC, but the astronomical observations recorded in them are estimated, based on the stellar positions described, to originate from around 2300 BC, making them a written record of sky observations conducted more than 4,000 years ago. The tablets list 71 stars and constellations across two sections. The first section covers stars visible throughout the year, organized by the three celestial paths that Babylonian astronomy used to divide the sky: the path of Enlil in the north, the path of Anu in the center, and the path of Ea in the south. The second section covers the rising and setting times of specific stars, their relationships to each other, and their associations with specific entities in the Sumerian cosmological record. Every entry in the catalog follows the same structural format. A star is named, its position is given, its associated deity or entity is noted, and its astronomical behavior, rising time, visibility period, relationship to other stars is recorded. Every entry except one. One entry in the Mul.Apin catalog deviates from the standard format in two ways. First, it includes a symbol that does not appear in any other star entry in either section. Second, the descriptive language that follows its listing uses a grammatical construction that appears elsewhere in the Sumerian administrative texts, not the astronomical texts, in the context of ongoing exchange between parties. Mainstream scholarship has classified this anomalous entry as a scribal error or a regional variant of standard notation. The AI did not classify it as an error. It identified it as a deliberate and meaningful deviation, and it cross-referenced the symbol across the full cuneiform record. The mainstream framework for ancient astronomical texts is consistent and rarely examined. Ancient peoples observed the sky, associated what they saw with the gods of their religion, and recorded those associations in the language of mythology. The astronomical data is recoverable and scientifically useful. The mythological framing is cultural context. The two are kept separate. This framework works efficiently for most of the Sumerian astronomical record. The stars associated with Enlil are storms. The stars associated with Ea are waters. The mythological associations follow predictable theological logic. The anomalous Mul.Apin entry doesn't follow that logic. The symbol attached to it doesn't correspond to any deity in the standard Sumerian pantheon. It corresponds to a category that appears in economic and diplomatic tablets, the symbol used in administrative records for an active open transaction, something that has not been completed, something ongoing. In an administrative tablet, this symbol next to a party's name means exchange is continuing, communication is open, the matter is not closed. In a star catalog, it means something the mainstream framework has no category for, because the mainstream framework does not allow that a star entry in an ancient astronomical record could be flagging an active, ongoing exchange with the entity associated with that star. The symbol was noted by scholars. It was classified as unusual, and it was not followed up on because the implication of following up on it, that the Sumerians were deliberately marking one specific star as a source of ongoing communication, is not a conclusion the field is equipped to process. The AI processed it. The research team's instruction to Grok was specific. Identify the star associated with the anomalous entry and cross-reference it against every other ancient astronomical record available: Egyptian, Vedic, Babylonian, Mayan, and any documented tribal astronomical tradition, to determine whether any other culture marked the same star with comparable special significance. The AI returned a result in 3 parts. The identification of the star, based on the position data in the Mul.Apin entry, the celestial path it falls within, and its relationship to neighboring stars listed in the catalog. The star associated with the anomalous entry corresponds to what modern astronomy designates as the brightest star in the night sky, a star the ancient Egyptians called Sopdet, the star known today as Sirius, the cross-reference. The AI searched the comparative record for special treatment of Sirius across ancient astronomical traditions. What it found was not occasional mention. It was systematic, deliberate, multicultural marking of the same star as categorically different from all others in traditions with no documented contact. The communication classification, the AI's analysis of the grammatical construction in the anomalous Mul.Apin entry confirmed that the language used is not the language of worship or observation. It is the language of exchange, of something received and something sent. A channel that in the Sumerian text's own grammatical structure is described in the present continuous tense. Not was maintaining contact, maintains contact. 4,000 years ago, the Sumerians wrote that Sirius maintains contact in the present tense, and then marked it with a symbol for an open, ongoing transaction. As the team continued pulling the thread, 3 layers of corroboration emerged that the mainstream dismissal of the Mul.Apin anomaly cannot account for. The first revelation, the Dogon. The Dogon people of Mali in West Africa possess astronomical knowledge about Sirius that they should not have been able to obtain. When French anthropologists Marcel Grioli and Germaine Dieterlen conducted field research with the Dogon in the 1930s, they documented a tradition describing Sirius as a triple star system. The Dogon described a companion to Sirius, small, dense, white, with a 50-year orbital period, that they called Potolo, the star of the beginning. The companion star, Sirius B, is a white dwarf. It is invisible to the naked eye. It was first suspected by Western astronomers in 1844 based on perturbations in Sirius's movement, and first visually confirmed by telescope in 1862. The Dogon described it in the 1930s with an orbital period accurate to within the margin of observational error. They described its extreme density, a property of white dwarfs not understood by Western science until the 20th century. When asked where this knowledge came from, the Dogon said it was given to them by beings who came from the Sirius system, who arrived in a spinning vessel that descended with sound and wind, who stayed among them, taught them astronomy and agriculture, and left with a promise to return, the second revelation, the Great Pyramid alignment. The descending passage of the Great Pyramid of Giza is angled at precisely the degree required at the pyramid's construction date for the star Sirius to shine directly down the passage at a specific moment in its annual cycle, the moment of its heliacal rising, when it first reappears on the horizon after 70 days of invisibility. The entire Egyptian agricultural and religious calendar was synchronized to this event. The new year began when Sirius rose. The flooding of the Nile followed within days. The civilization's most fundamental cycle was structured around Sirius. Mainstream Egyptology classifies this as religious worship of a star. The AI's analysis of the Egyptian textual language associated with Sirius's rising, specifically the pyramid texts, the oldest religious writings in Egypt, found the same active exchange grammatical construction identified in the Sumerian anomalous entry, not observation, not worship, communication marking, the third revelation, the wow signal. On August 15, 1977, astronomer Jerry Ehman, working at the Big Ear Radio Telescope at Ohio State University, detected a radio signal of extraordinary intensity. It lasted 72 seconds, exactly the observational window of the telescope. It was so far above background noise that Ehman circled the printout in red pen and wrote, "Wow, the signal has never been detected again despite continuous monitoring of the same region of sky. Its origin has never been determined. Its frequency, 1420 megahertz, the frequency of neutral hydrogen, is the frequency SETI has identified as the most likely candidate for intentional interstellar communication because it is universally significant to any civilization with knowledge of atomic physics." The wow signal came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, not Sirius, but its characteristics, a single transmission at the expected contact frequency, never repeated, match precisely the profile the Sumerian administrative symbol describes. An open transaction, something sent. Sirius is not treated as an ordinary star in any ancient tradition that developed complex astronomical knowledge. In ancient Egypt, Sirius was Sopdet, the bringer of the flood, the marker of the new year, the star whose appearance signaled the renewal of the agricultural cycle. The goddess associated with Sirius was depicted with a five-pointed star above her head. She was described not as a deity who controlled the star, but as an entity whose home was the star. In ancient Mesopotamia, Sirius was Mul.Apin Sa2, the star of the arrow, the pointer. In the Enuma Anu Enlil sequence of astronomical texts, Sirius appears in contexts associated with messages, with things sent and received, with the arrival of specific entities at specific times correlated with Sirius's position. In ancient India, the Vedic texts describe a star called Mrgavyata, the deer hunter, associated with the deity Rudra, a figure whose characteristics in the Vedic tradition include arrival from outside the solar system, transmission of knowledge to humanity, and eventual departure. The star identified by astronomers as Mrgavyata is Sirius. In Greek mythology, Sirius was the dog star, the star that rose during the hottest days of summer, the days called the dog days, which were understood as a period of heightened activity from the star's associated forces, not passive heat, active influence. 4 independent ancient civilizations, no documented contact between the Dogon, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and the Vedic traditions, all marking the same star as the home of entities that interact with humanity, all using language of activity, communication, and ongoing relationship rather than passive astronomical observation. The AI cross-referenced all 4 traditions against the anomalous Mul.Apin entry. The categorical overlap is not in the mythological elements, it is in the grammatical structure, the tense, the directionality, the exchange language that all 4 use when they describe what Sirius does. Here is what the 60 years of SETI research have never addressed. SETI's search strategy is based on the assumption that we don't know where to look. So the program points telescopes at candidate star systems, stars similar to the Sun, with planets in the habitable zone, and listens. The Sumerian astronomical record says we do know where to look. It says the civilization that has been in contact with Earth is associated with a specific star. It provides that star's position in enough detail to identify it, and it marks it with a symbol meaning the exchange is ongoing. SETI has never formally incorporated ancient astronomical records into its search strategy. The program's published methodology does not include a review of which star systems ancient civilizations treated as communication sources. This absence has been noted by individual researchers within the SETI community. It has not been addressed by the program's leadership. The Dogon knowledge of Sirius B was documented in the 1930s by credentialed academic anthropologists. The findings were published in peer-reviewed journals. The implication that the Dogon received astronomical information from a non-human source associated with Sirius has never been formally investigated by any scientific institution. The standard response has been to propose that the Dogon learned about Sirius B from European contact. No European contact in the Dogon's history prior to Griol's visit has been documented as having conveyed this information. The WOW signal was detected in 1977. It has been the subject of continuous follow-up observation since then. The source has not been identified. The characteristics of the signal, its frequency, its intensity, its brevity, have never been explained by any natural phenomenon. The official SETI position is that without a repeated detection, the signal cannot be confirmed as artificial. The Sumerian tablets say the exchange is ongoing. The Dogon say the beings are expected to return. The WOW signal was a single transmission that has not been repeated, a single transmission from an unknown source, at the frequency designated for intentional contact, never repeated, or never repeated in the direction SETI has been monitoring since 1977. So here is where this lands. The Mul.Apin tablets, the oldest surviving star catalog on Earth, contain one entry that deviates from the format of every other entry. The deviation includes a symbol meaning active ongoing exchange and grammatical language in the present continuous tense. Grok AI identified the star associated with this entry as Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. 4 independent ancient civilizations with no documented contact between them all treat Sirius as categorically different from all other stars. All use language of activity, communication, and exchange rather than observation. The Dogon possessed knowledge of Sirius's companion star that was impossible to obtain without technology they are not documented as having had. Their tradition states directly that the knowledge was given to them by beings from Sirius. The Great Pyramid's descending passage is aligned to Sirius with engineering precision. The Egyptian calendar was synchronized to Sirius's annual cycle. The Sumerian administrative symbol in the Mul.Apin entry for Sirius means the transaction is open, the exchange is continuing, the matter is not closed. SETI has been listening for 60 years. The ancient record says the contact isn't incoming, it's already established. It has been established for at least 4,000 years, and the Sumerian tablet doesn't just flag the star. The anomalous entry contains a second section that mainstream scholarship has classified as damaged and unreadable, but that the AI's pattern analysis found to contain a structured sequence, not random damage. a sequence, the same class of structured sequence the AI identified in the Sumerian astronomical tablets used for recording the timing of scheduled returns. The tablet doesn't just name the star, it contains a timing record, and the next date in that sequence is not in the distant future. That date was identified by the research team. It was submitted for peer review. The journal that received the submission did not reject it. They acknowledged receipt and have not published it in 14 months. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. When that piece goes up, you need to have seen this one first. I'm Dr. James Mercer. The moment I have more, you'll be the first to know.